Hello, this is Supply and Demand, Section D, Price Controls. Our prioritized standard is Economic Standard 19. Objectively, we're going to distinguish between price floors and price ceilings. Now, at times, the government will determine that the equilibrium price for a particular market is either too high or too low and will choose to interfere with the market. Now, this doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes they might see this price and for whatever reasons they might think, man, this is too high. Or, no, this is too low. And they'll actually decide to interfere with that. It doesn't happen often, but it happens occasionally. When the government intervenes into a particular market and sets prices, it is considered a price control. Now, price controls can either set a minimum or a maximum price for an item. Enforced price controls often cause either a surplus or a shortage to occur. When price controls are established, it is often done to keep markets functioning smoothly and to avoid instability caused by dramatic price swings. All right, first of these, price floors. Now, these are government regulations that establish a minimum price for a particular good or service. Now, I have P and a line under it, meaning price floor. So you think price floor, you can't go any lower than a floor. Some of you might have been expecting this to be lower than this. That is not usually where you're actually going to see a price floor to be set. They are usually higher than equilibrium. So you might be thinking floor low. Visually, it's going to be above an equilibrium price, at least if they're doing it right. Price floors usually help producers more. Believe it or not, people that supply things are going to be more excited about higher prices and therefore want to supply more of it than consumers are going to be interested in paying more money for items. So this usually helps producers more. An effective price floor will be set higher than the equilibrium price, creating a surplus. Now, I did say the term effective price floor. Is it possible that Congress might pass a law to set a price that is lower than equilibrium price? Could that possibly be done? Yes, it could be done, but that would be a huge waste of everyone's time to actually do that because the marketplace is already doing something higher than that. So if it's effective, it means it's not just lip service. You're actually doing something beneficial. Therefore, it's going to be higher than equilibrium price. And by doing that, you're going to notice that, oh, look, a surplus. All right. One example of a price floor is minimum wage. So to kind of describe how this actually might work, so most of the time you actually think of yourself as a consumer. It's common, but when we talk about minimum wage, you're actually not a consumer, you're actually a producer, and therefore you are supply. So if we're talking about the market for jobs, then let me see, your willingness to work at, let's say, $7.25 an hour. So people might say, okay, I'd be interested in working this much, let's say 100 people willing to work for $7.25 an hour, just for the sake of argument to have a number. So if they passed an effective price floor, that will be higher than the equilibrium price. So, I don't know, let's say $10.10 an hour. So the price of $10.10 an hour, generally speaking, a lot more people would probably say, yeah, sign me up, buddy. Sign me up for that. I am way more interested in working a job for $10.10 an hour than $7.25 an hour. But at the same point, you're also probably going to notice that the people that need workers, which in this instance are going to be the business owners, they are going to be a lot less interested in paying higher prices for all these workers. So essentially, you're probably going to actually have a surplus of people that want jobs at this higher price level, but won't be able to find work because the businesses aren't demanding quite that many workers at that price. Another example of a price floor are going to be farming subsidies. So essentially, I'm not going to show it, but Farmers, a lot of times, are actually paid money to sell their products at a higher price. Whatever they don't sell at that higher price, the government will actually buy off of them. So farming subsidy, again, is another example of a price floor. Now, price ceilings, these are government regulations that establish a maximum price for a particular good or service. So, maximum price, that would actually be at a price above you, price ceiling, lower than the equilibrium price. I know you think ceiling, you think high above you, but when you do a price ceiling, it actually, if it's effective, it's actually going to be below your equilibrium price. And therefore, being below equilibrium price, you're going to notice that more people want this than there is of that product to go around. So price ceilings usually help consumers more. Believe it or not, consumers are usually the ones going to be more excited about paying lower prices for items, not higher prices for items. An effective price ceiling will be set lower than the equilibrium price, and therefore it will create a shortage. So if you're looking for that little visual image, hey, there it is. That means we're talking about a shortage here. One example of a price ceiling is a gasoline price freeze. So on occasion, prices might skyrocket for gas, and the government might actually decide to step in to lower those prices. So one real life example is it was a crisp September morning in 2001, September 11th, and we were under attack. And for whatever reasons, people determined that I need to go get gasoline right now. The world might be ending, but I need to make sure we have a full tank of gas in our vehicle. So everyone ran out to the gas station and got gas. Based on that, the price of gas skyrocketed to a very high level. I'm going to put a lower level than I think it actually was, just so it's easier to swallow. But people were willing in some areas, not here, but some areas, to pay upwards of $5 a gallon for gasoline. So the president came on the news the next day and basically said he was instituting a gasoline price freeze. Whatever gas prices were on September the 10th, gas stations had to charge that price because they felt like they were gouging prices. So basically that set the price at a much lower level than what proved to be the equilibrium point. So I think gas prices were probably at that point in time closer to about $1.35 a gallon. So basically, some people were willing to pay upwards of $5 a gallon, which basically meant that now that prices were lowered, you had a lot of people interested in purchasing gas, but there wasn't enough of that gas to go around at that price. So therefore, we actually had a shortage. Another example of a price ceiling are housing rent controls. I won't show this particular one. But there are some areas where it's very expensive to have affordable housing, so they'll actually set a certain number of apartments at a lower price level, and then therefore people will have cheaper housing in certain areas, which also for those particular houses, that housing sets up a shortage because there's not enough low price housing to go around in expensive areas like New York City, as for instance. Most economists actually advise against the use of price controls due to its creation of shortages and surpluses and long-run allocation problems that they can create in the economy. All right, this concludes Supply and Demand, Section D, Price Controls lecture. Our prioritized standard was Economic Standard 19, and objectively now you can distinguish between price floors and price ceilings.